Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to the St. Charles County Council meeting. I'd like to introduce Michael Bond of Liberty Christian Church of O'Fallon, who will provide an invocation, and Council Member Joe Cronin will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Lord, I want to thank you for this day. Thank you for the privilege that we have another day to live on this earth that you've blessed us with. I want to thank you for the service of these men before me and their support staff. God, bless them for their service, Lord. They put in much time that many of us don't even know about. God, forgive us our sins this day for the things that we've done and the things that we haven't done. Grant us your mercy, Lord. Give these men the wisdom to lead with the decisions put before them tonight to make right choices that glorify you and honor you, Lord. Let us residents of St. Charles County live upright lives that glorify you. And we ask that you would grant your favor upon this county, that you would give us your mercy, you would give us your grace, you'd pour out your love out upon us, and that as your word says, whatever we do, we would glorify you. Let us glorify you tonight. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Next on our agenda is public comments. We'll allow speakers to approach the council on any topic. However, once the topic is open for discussion, only 6 speakers will be allowed, alternating pro and con. Each speaker has a limit of 3 minutes, and please remember to fill out a speaker's card. Okay, public comment.
Good evening. My name is Chet Boki. I'm here to speak on this bill, number 4006, it's a health ordinance on the smoking issue. Again, I would like to reiterate my opposition in many, many ways and respects. On the face of this, I see no good to come out of it. I think it's a personal agenda, and this is not O'Fallon. I'll be here to oppose as many times as you introduce it, Mr. Cronin, and then some. It's not needed. The provisions put forth are unfair, unjust, unreasonable, and nonsensical. You know, all I can tell you, when you make law, sometimes you have to look at it from a personal standpoint. There's more good come out of it than bad and blah, blah, blah. But here's my point. When somebody's given a little bit of power to be able to make law, change people's life, you know, I don't think you'd want me or anybody else really going into your home and telling you what to do past your door. And this is what this equates to. It's very sad that it does, but it really does. It's your business, your call. But laws sometimes are made. Not all laws are good. They certainly aren't. A lot of them are repealed. Some of them are ignored. Some of them are called unenforceable. And some are foolish. But I think we're doing pretty good as we are. You carry the title Honorable Men. I hope you do things for the honorable reason. And I'd like to get past this, leave it behind us in the dust or smoke, whatever. And at this point, I think you know where I stand on this issue. I stand firm on it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this particular topic? Okay. Other public comments? Mr. Enough.
Good evening, members of the County Council. A.C. Dienoff, County resident. First of all, I'd like to hopefully the Cardinals wrap it up in the next 2 games. It's 7 o'clock and the game has now started, so maybe we've scored a run, I hope. At the last county council meeting, I requested you as county council members and county council staff that you work with the IT department to come up with some type of email notification. I want my county of St. Charles to be on the cutting edge and set the example for other governments across the nation. Couple mix-ups. You had a special county council meeting. Of course, we want to have open transparency, and the administration is working and bending over backwards to open up the records and open up the transparency door. But that special meeting was not really notified to county residents. And so I'd like to see us work with IT and county council staff to have an email notification list. Other governments across the nation have this in place. I've visited a couple websites and I can help you and give you some information. It's something very inexpensive to do with our IT department, but I think it would lead to open transparency and better use of government meetings. So that's my second request. I have not heard back from any staff from the county council office or from the administration on the subject. I'd like to speak about bill number 4016, and it deals with community development block grant funds. Unfortunately, I didn't see anywhere on the county's website where we had a public hearing before the Community Action Board, so I'm going to testify before you as the county council, my elected officials. According to the report that's released, the 2014 funding money, which is everybody besides the city of O'Fallon and the city of St. Charles, we are now considered an urban core county. You purport to spend $60,000 on affordable housing, which deals with rentals to make housing affordable to county residents, $23,750 for emergency housing needs, for rent, mortgage, gas, electric, water, and sewer in delinquency to keep people in their homes. A home improvement loan program. The city of St. Peters is going to spend $160,000 and the county will spend $100,000 to help people with code enforcement violations and to improve their home with a forgivable interest rate if they stay in their home for 5 years. Code enforcement, dealing with the outdoor maintenance code, $65,000 of the county money. And I'd like to see us, instead of issuing tickets as the first result, I'd like to see us put on the back of that ticket, if nobody's home at that property, that the community development block grant funds are available, especially for use for the outdoor maintenance code. I'd rather see people be given that opportunity. Demolition of delinquent uninhabitable structures of blighted property, $35,500. Separation of wastewater and surface stormwater, $66,000. Transportation assistance for the elderly, disabled, or low income, $40,000 who have no access to a vehicle. Emergency home repair program for water, sewer, HVAC, $20,000. Community services, lawn mowing, Meals on Wheels, $10,000. Fair housing education rights and responsibilities, $2,000. And what really strikes me is the cost of administration, $125,000 to administer this program. That seems like an awful lot of money to me. But I've been before you for the last 3 years talking about homeless men and homeless single men in particular. We've forgotten totally about the homeless, and especially single homeless men. The shelters in St. Charles County take single men if you're married, if you have children, or if you have a girlfriend. But if you're a single man out there, like there are 7 single men in the city of O'Fallon, there's nowhere to go. The Salvation Army that you have a contract with and St. Joachim and Ann do not take single men. So I'd like to see us work towards changing the contract, work towards caring about these individuals, because we are now considered an urban county. It's becoming winter, it's going to get cold, and I hate to see somebody lose their life. A lot of other things to deal with this are mental illness. We need to deal with that to get these people the help that they need, and there's some other things that need to be dealt with. But I'd like the county council to look at these issues. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment on this particular subject? Okay, seeing none, any other public comment? Okay, public comment is closed. Next is the oral report from our county executive.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I promise this will be short, but I know everybody wants to hear about our meeting with the Warren County Commission. And let me first of all say the rumors that we have our sheriffs positioned on the border and are anticipating a preemptive strike against Warren County, those are exaggerated. We had a great meeting right on the county line in Forestell, and I think they understand a little bit better where we're coming from. We understand some of their issues. Of course, there's a lawsuit hanging over this entire issue. And but we did exchange some ideas. We got their attorney and our attorneys looking into establishing some facts, finding exactly what the facts are, and then telling us whether some of the things we talked about we can in fact do. So I'm not going to say any more than that. We agreed we wouldn't talk about it until we either agreed on something or agreed that we just couldn't come to a resolution. But I think some of the ideas that were thrown out there will give them and us a chance to protect our people from situations like this where they're in fact dependent upon the next county to maintain the roads that they need to use all the time. So if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call, or if I can answer them from here, I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next, I think we'll get kind of deviate just a little bit, and I'd like Ms. Shell McBride, if you, our county collector, if you will come forward. And I certainly appreciate your taking the time to come. I'd like, if we could, for the members of the council, myself, and if we have any questions, but in particular, just kind of give us a rundown on where we're at on the various tax bills that are going out, the timing of such, and when our constituents can expect receiving those bills.
The target dates for creation of the real estate bills are the first week in November. And the reason that is the target date is based on some of the laws as far as the rate setting procedures. It could take up till October 31st to get a tax rate. And so to time everything out properly, we set the first week in November to create the real estate rolls. Right now we have the assessed values for real estate. Today we did get tax rates, but we are missing 7 of the special assessments. So we can't create the roll until we have all the components, including the special assessments. The personal property bills have taken a 3-day weekend to create for the past 2 years. So we've done it over Veterans Day weekend for the past 2. We are planning to do it over Veterans Day weekend for 2013. The IS department has ordered some more RAM additional memory, which should help speed the process. Our goal this year is to find out that we can do it in a regular weekend, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but the past 2 years it has taken every bit of the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to get those bills created. So by the week after Veterans Day, all of the bills should be viewable on the internet site, because once they're created, the very next day they go out to the internet. It takes an additional couple of days to create data files to send to the printer, who then has 5 days by contract to get that data into printed bills into the post office. So we believe that citizens will have their tax bills in their hands by Thanksgiving.
Okay. Questions? So as we proceed on here, by Thanksgiving they would have both personal property tax and the other bills. What assessments are you waiting to? So you said there's like 6 or 7.
Some of the community improvement districts, some of the drainage and levee districts, those type of special assessments. We've got 7 outstanding yet. I think it's 3 drainage and levee, and the other 4 are community improvement districts.
Okay.
So we were in contact with each of them today.
The tax rates that you mentioned, we actually passed those last meeting. Am I correct?
For the county, yes.
Yes, for the county, that set our county rate. The other ones have been established for school districts, fire districts, those are already...
The registrar turned all of them over today.
Okay.
So thankfully this year they're in early.
They're in early. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions?
When you talk about you can see the information online, where can you see that online? Is that under your tab, under your department?
Under collector.sccmo.org. And then there's a link on the left-hand side that says tax database, and also at the bottom of the page there's an icon for the tax database.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
One question, make sure I understand it correctly. It sounds like we got 99% of the data we need, but we're waiting on a few special purpose districts. Is that because when the legislature changed those dates, they forgot to change the dates for levy districts and CIDs and?
The dates for the drainage and levy and the CIDs and the NIDs has been October 15th for many, many years.
Right, but
So-
they changed everybody else, has to get it in earlier, but now they still have till the 15th. Is that the problem? Because we can talk to our delegation about, changing that, making everybody get it in earlier.
2 years ago, we had a fire district walk in their rate on October 31st at 10 minutes to 5 p.m. So, we could request a change in that. The truth of the matter is, there
Well,
are
what
so
was-
many properties that change hands in the last quarter of the year that if you bill in October, you're rebilling for 3 months. You're bringing in temporary help who might work 4 hours and then either be sent home or have to be paid for sitting still because there's not enough work to keep them busy for 8 hours. So there was some conscious decision in moving billing back from October to November. There were some statutory changes that made it almost a requirement to move it back to November.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Can we get those statutory issues resolved so that because October 31st is late for anybody, right?
Not really for the tax rates. The tax rate process, the proposed rates are due to the registrar by October 1st. She then has 3 days to turn them around and send them off to the state auditor.
Right. And they
State
usually
auditor
get
has
that.
15 days to accept or reject them. If they reject them, which they did with the political subdivision in 2010, that entity then has 15 more days to either accept or prove their case. So we really can't count on rates until November 1st.
Okay, well, if there's a way that can be simplified, because again, it sounds like it's the exception that's controlling the rule. And you could, you get most of this data in, but then you wait for the tough cases that like you just outlined, and those are the ones that take the additional time.
You can't run the tax roll till they're all here. If a
Yeah,
rate
I know,
comes in
but that's what I'm
October
saying.
31st, a rate
Can we
comes in
do
October
a
31st.
statutory changes to make sure they're all there earlier?
You can request statutory changes, but there are no penalties unless you're not going to collect, and then you're going to have a second billing. That's what happened historically. I've heard of second billings having to happen, or a segment having to be rebilled. So for the sake of the cost, there was a conscious decision to allow the appropriate statutory time to give the entities their time to get their charges in, to prevent the duplicate mailings when all of these properties are changing hands.
Wasn't there a jurisdiction that missed the deadline, one of the special jurisdictions in another county, not here, and so they entered them as zero?
There may have been. I don't recall a discussion of that nature.
Because that's one of the problems in that statute, is that, as you said, there's no penalty, but the way the wording is, if you don't meet the deadline, there's at least an inference you may not have the right to anything other than a zero in your category.
And then the taxpayers would pay double the next year?
No?
If they
You've
set their
missed-
charge each year, that special taxing authority is going to make up their missed funds.
I don't think they have that authority.
In 2010, about when the auditor didn't certify them, then what do you do? Because the auditor has to not certify them and then turn it over to the Attorney General. And then we wait years for the Attorney General either to file something or to get a resolution of it. And in the meantime, we just go ahead and whatever they gave us, right? That's what we've done.
Right, for
They
instance,
came to an
if,
agreement in 2010, it was my understanding.
but not until they were in 2011. When the jurisdiction actually went forward at the time, there was not an agreement, and they were at risk that there would be a later suit, and they did come to an agreement. is we spoke to them. We were worried about what would happen. But,
Well, bottom line, next month, we're going to be meeting with the delegation, and if you have some ideas about how this could be streamlined or make it easier on you.
I guess my
so you don't have
question
to
is,
wait.
how many of you get your utility bill 3 months in advance? How many of you get your credit card bill 3 months in advance? You're still getting your tax bill at least a month in advance. You got a projected tax liability notice in April, which gave you a good faith estimate of your upcoming tax bill. So if you're trying to budget for a tax bill, you got that in April. You also have last year's bill. The question is, do we want to spend additional county general revenue money sending out corrected, revised, duplicate statements, because we send bills out in October that by the time they're due in December may not be accurate, because we'll get state tax commission orders in, which will adjust values. You will get properties that change hands. So it's a cost consideration for the county. And I believe the tools and resources are there for taxpayers if they're trying to budget. I put forth an an ordinance request in May that my county councilor had hoped to have on your agenda tonight, but it's not there, and hopefully it will be on next month, to provide for expressly advance and partial payments, so that people who are concerned about not collecting enough money to have to pay in December can make advance payments just as though they had an escrow. And then that would be applied to their bill before they got it at the end of the year. So the goal behind the process is twofold. We're collecting funds for the political subdivisions to provide public services, and we're sending bills to the taxpayers so they know what to pay, what their fair share of that contribution is. And we want to do it in a cost-effective and cost-efficient manner.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time. Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to remove change order number 3 for Horner Schifrin, please.
Okay, we need a motion there. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'd like
Okay.
to remove the utility easement for Ameren Emergency Communications.
Okay, we need a second for that.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those two items have been removed, which allows us, I guess, one other item. So, need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's go back to the first one. Mr. Cronin, we'll let you go first.
I would like to talk to Mr. Reifsu about this, please, if he would kindly come up. I guess I have two questions and maybe a comment. I noticed on the page 19 where the memorandum from the county, it was actually a memorandum to Mr. Ellman from Mr. Schnurr, that this change order, it states that it's for the Cave Spring Interchange and I-70's Outer Roads project, and then handwritten in, it says by adding the 5th Street interchange area. I drove 70 tonight purposely to drive that 5th Street interchange because I don't drive, I usually come in 370, but I noticed it just got redone and there's straw everywhere, and I'm wondering why we're spending $1 million to study an interchange that just got rebuilt, number one. Number two is I know this is part of the Outer Roads project as well, and there's a lot of discussion about the outer roads and the one-way outer roads in the county. And I guess the comment I'd have with that is I like to see this more transparent. There is a mention on page 21 that there's an attached copy of the proposed interchange in our packet, but there was no attached copy of the proposed interchange for us to see.
And I did have the pleasure of talking to Mr. David Leisure, who's Economic Director of City of St. Charles, at the Master Plan Steering Committee meetings. And I don't think St. Charles, I guess it's fair to say, is real good with one-way service roads. He indicated that he thought that was going to be an economic catastrophe, was his words, for City of St. Charles. So I guess I'd like to understand what we're spending this $1 million for, and is it redundant for something we've already done? Okay.
Okay, your first question was about the Fifth Street interchange and the straw that was being placed out in that area. I did not drive that today, but I'll be speculating that that straw and the seat that you're seeing is associated with the Blanchette Bridge in that area. But like I said, I did not see that specifically.
It's coming down the 70 ramp, okay? The ramp heading east on, okay? Well, basically, I was coming from the west. If you're heading eastbound on 70, you get off at 5th Street. That whole interchange area has been all tore up for a good while. Okay, it looks like they're widening it. Okay, it looks like they made a new curb in that goes around towards the columns. Okay, it's been under construction for a while.
The project that you're referring to is a project that's being done by the City of St. Charles, and there was a congestion mitigation air quality project, and that was improve some of the lane markings, curbs, and the traffic signals in that area, primarily from South 5th Street up to the signal there at the off-ramp. So there's about 3 signals, I think, right on the road that they're updating the equipment, upgrading the lanes. Primarily, I think one of the benefit of that is associated with the streets of St. Charles. While we're stepping back on the 5th Street interchange, in general, it's the interchange itself is a design that's been in service for quite a while. It has loop ramps on 2 sides of the interchange, and of course it's tucked up tight against the Blanchette Bridge. And one of the things that interchange functions pretty well, but what we're seeing, and you can see it a lot of times on Saturday, anytime there's an event at Bass Pro, is that traffic coming east will start stacking up. The city's done some improvements to try to make that work more efficiently. MoDOT's done some improvements to try to make that work more efficiently. But that whole Mark Twain Village area continues to grow, attract new businesses, and attract more traffic. And they really have one door into that center. If you're heading east, you get over to Bass Pro Drive or Ameristar, based on which direction you're going, and you make a turn in that into either Ameristar or the Mark Twain Center. What this project really is looking at is how can we really continue the redevelopment along 5th Street, not only in the Mark Twain Center, should Bass Pro would want to expand, or whether there be another retailer that would want to locate in that area. How does that work with the streets of St. Charles, Ameristar, the Convention Center, which is more up towards Fairgrounds, and the columns and other business in that area. In general, that whole 4 quadrants there that are kind of bordered by the Fairgrounds overpass and 5th Street is really going through an exciting change. And so what this project is looking at is how can we continue that, and how can we get traffic beyond that one point of entry. And so part of this, and I apologize that there was not an exhibit attached in the packet that was referenced, I thought there was, is to see how can we get traffic up to Fairgrounds from 70 and back to 5th Street more efficiently, and provide that back door into the Mark Twain Village Center. Mark Twain Village Center has an entrance that serves Buffalo Wild Wings off of Fairgrounds. The Convention Center is up there. But a lot of times, traffic in that general area just doesn't work with the development that the city's trying to put together. We have met with the City of St. Charles. They've seen a preliminary concept of what we're proposing in this area. David Leisure was in that meeting, and he's supportive of this idea. In general, is it one-way auto roads? Is that the solution? It's part of the solution, what we're looking at in that area. It's also looking at some improvements at the actual interchange itself.
Was the process on this like a similar road board project where St. Charles came to the county road board and said, we want a study of this whole interchange area, and it's going to cost $1 million to do it, and we'd like to get the road board to say we'd like to look at that? Did they, in other words, did they drive the bus for this $1 million expense, or is this a county deal?
Well, I think it's on I-70 corridor in general. We've been working closely with the municipalities I don't know if either the county or the cities are driving the bus. What's driving the bus is that we're looking at the economic health of the corridor in general. And I-70, as you look at it, was an interstate that was designed in the 50s with outer roads very closely spaced together. And we have lots of congestion on I-70 corridor. I-70 between and the St. Peter's project, which is making a lot of news headlines right now, 3 accidents a day, or 3 accidents a week occur in that 3-mile segment of I-70. So I-70, as you look at it as a countywide perspective, is a corridor that's aging. It's built in the 50s, so it's pushing, 60 years old. Was never designed for the economic growth that's occurred on the corridor. And as you look at it, the transportation improvements that are in place are really hindering some of our opportunities to get better development and redevelopment of the area. And that's really been the focus of whether the projects in St. Peter's, O'Fallon, or St. Charles, is to look at how can we capitalize on the position of those properties, because they have great visibility but poor access. So how can we provide better access to them? And whether that's through a one-way outer road, whether that's through collector-distributor roads, or improving the interchange in general, that's the common thread between all 3 of these projects.
We're catching, I'm getting a lot of comment from constituents in my district about the service roads. And while in general, I support the idea of one-way service roads, and I've driven this past weekend, I drove the entire length of Texas all the way to the mouth of the Rio Grande. In Texas, they're all over down there. But there's a distinct difference down there. The roads are straighter. They're generally, those one-way service roads were designed with highways that were newer built highways, and you don't have the curves, the hills, the creeks to deal with that you do in this county, nor do you have a situation like we have where a good part of the southern part of the I-70 does not have service roads in it. For instance, or the St. Peter's Golf Course is an example. So, I don't know how to say it, but I kind of feel in the dark a lot of this, especially when I look and see that there's a proposed, we're spending $1 million for an interchange that just got redone, and how much more can you really pack into that interchange already anyway? It's pretty darn tight the way it is. But I guess what I would like to see is, just for the sake of being able to answer to my constituents, is what are we doing, okay, and what are we planning on doing, okay? And I don't think I've got that answer. I don't know how else to tell you, okay? But I talked to Chairman Hollander earlier tonight about maybe a work session. I know some of the car dealers are fired up about it, and those guys are important to our county as well. I think a little more transparency might help a lot, because I think there's a lot of misinformation floating around about what's going on.
Mr. Chairman, could I clarify?
Sure.
Yeah.
While John's comments are certainly accurate relative to the corridor itself and how we and municipalities are attempting to bring it up to better standards, this particular project that you're talking about tonight, your comment about Mr. Leeser, I believe, was a comment about one-way outer roads from the bridge up to Cave Springs, which the city of St. Charles was very vocal about. I think Mr. Klinghammer will attest to that. But this particular set of improvements that we're looking at here really should be treated somewhat differently. They should, in some respects, stand on their own. And of particular concern here is, as he said, the Bass Pro Shop, whether or not they stay in that location, or if they do move, how do we attract an anchor to that development to make sure that it doesn't become blighted, quite honestly. We brought this idea to Councilmember Klinghammer. I think it's fair to say that he's excited about it. He's briefed the city of St. Charles, and I think all of them are excited about it. It holds great promise for not only Bass Pro Shops in that development, but also businesses such as the casino and especially the convention center. This will provide much better access to the convention center than what they have today.
Approximately what are you planning on doing? Adding lanes, changing turnarounds, doing roundabouts? What?
Pretty well all about, not the roundabouts, but.
Okay.
I don't know.
And I can answer that in brief if you want me to.
Not really.
I don't think you have to. You don't have to go in too much detail.
Is that my outside voice?
let me throw this. I would say the majority of this money, though, is to, for the Cave Springs interchange. Is that correct or not?
No, this change order is specifically for the project in St. Charles.
Okay, but
So
says
this
Cave-
is funds that would be set aside to define a concept a little bit better than a hand sketch, model that concept, make sure that it works, that provides a safe solution, and if so, take it through the public engagement process like you're hearing about the St. Peter's project. So you'd have stakeholder meetings, business roundtables, that whole notice to the public to get their input and feeling for the project being proposed, and then ultimately if that would proceed forward into design. On the St. Peter's project and all these I-70 projects, there's been robust public engagement, where there's been business roundtables. There's been 2 business roundtables. There's been 3 public meetings for the St. Peter's project now, and dozens upon dozens of one-on-one meetings with the auto dealers, the small business owners of the strip centers, the hospitals, to try to make sure that they understand the change. And one reason we haven't come out with other than at these public meetings, a full-blown, here's the project that we're going to build, is because we don't know. We're still in that process with projects in St. Peter's and O'Fallon of getting that feedback and making tweaks. And I was talking to an auto dealer today, and he's like, well, what version are you on? I have version number 5, and where's number 7? And that's because that's what we've been doing. Every time we meet with somebody, we want to make sure that the proposed improvements are good for the community, provide safety, reduce that accident rate that we have on I-70, upgrade the standards and provide traffic and congestion relief. But we want to make sure it's done in a way that does not negatively impact business, because really one of the sideline goals of this and the primary benefit that we see it collectively is how can we encourage new economic development. And one of the things that you hear from someone, whether they're a business on I-70 or a business on Mexico Road, is give me an extra curb cut. Give me an opportunity to get that customer off of the main line road into my business. And that's really what we're trying to do on I-70, whether it be in St. Peter's, O'Fallon, or St. Charles, is provide that extra ramp off of I-70 so that that auto dealership or that small business owner can get that customer into their showroom.
Councilman Brass.
John, I've been told by some of the dealers, I'm also getting the phone calls, that there has been a lot of plans out there, and that at one time they might have all agreed or felt more comfortable with one certain plan, but now I'm under the impression I'm under the understanding that plan has changed now, and now they're not happy with the new plan. But I think one of the problems is, I agree with Mr. Cronin, I think we should have a work session on it, because I don't think anybody knows what the plan is. Because you said it's on the 7th plan.
No,
Is that actually true? Is it on the 7th plan?
There's been 7 versions that we've presented out to various business owners and publicly on this project, because every time we meet with a group, and the auto dealers in this particular case have been met with several times. There's 11 of them on the corridor in St. Peter's. And so we've been trying to take back that feedback and see what can we incorporate out of that. And part of it's a learning process. I'm not an auto dealer. I don't sell cars. So I may not understand and appreciate that 50% of their business is coming from service, or that 80% of their customers are coming from the west, not necessarily from the east. And so those things really make a difference in how we can lay out some of these ramps to better serve their businesses.
Hold on, I'm not done yet. What I would like to point out, though, is I do think it's important to have public input. Whether or not you might have had some, but I also think the council should be involved, and I also think it would be irresponsible for us to pass this tonight since the attachment's not on here. And the other problem I have with it is the original contract was $1.3 million, and you have change orders that exceed the original contract. And I've always had problems with that, because I guess the way you put out an RFP for professionals, it's an RFP for professional services, is that correct?
RFQ for qualifications.
For qualifications, and
Yes.
then is that the actual, like the bid, or?
For professional services, you look at qualifications, you interview them, and you select the most qualified and negotiate a contract. So it's not an RFP, it's an RFQ.
The thing is, John, is I'm just really concerned, and I know you guys know what you're doing, and I have confidence in you and all that, but it does bother me that the fact is the contract is $1.3 million, and the extras are $1.6 million in extras. I mean, So did we not know what did we just blindly go into this project, or did we keep adding things? I mean, I don't like that. I'm not blaming anybody. I just don't understand it.
Yes, County Executive. Sure.
Again, John, I don't think made this clear. You'd be absolutely correct, Councilman Brazel, if this was an RFP. We should go out and bid it again. But with engineering services, it's not really a competitive bid, it's an RFQ. And once you pick what you think is the best firm, you still have to go then and negotiate what you're going to pay them and what the various contingencies are and everything. And I assume we did that here. I mean, we could have started over and put out another RFQ, but in the end, we would have had to pick one and go negotiate with them, and we just skipped that first step. Is that right?
That is correct. And I thought this was in the packet, and since if it was not, maybe I'll reiterate. On this process, when we went out for our qualifications and we interviewed the consultants, I believe there was a 7-member panel, and there was a member from the county, St. Peter's, St. Charles, and MoDOT that interviewed the various consultants and went through a scoring process that was published with the request for qualification so that the consultant teams would know exactly what they were going to be graded upon. And that's one reason why we keep adding to this contract, I guess, is because we went through that process with, in this case, there was a City of St. Charles staff member on that selection team. And so the projects are very similar in nature. They're dealing with an interchange and access improvements off of I-70. So reasonably, we would come to the same conclusion that the team that we have selected is the most qualified to do the work. So it's getting down to that point where you're just negotiating price. And so on a design contract, there's some standard rules of thumbs that determine whether it's a reasonable price, a percentage of the construction estimate. And so that was a starting point. And this contractor is actually a little bit probably lower than the standard because of all the work he's done with us on other phases of this project along I-70. They've already done a lot of the traffic counts. They've already established some of the modeling that another consultant team would have to come in and redo. So from a value standpoint, it makes sense. But I share in your concern because you have a base contract of $1 million and we're now pushing more than $2 million. And I completely understand that. From a tax value, though, we're getting the best value because we're taking advantage of the super value meal at McDonald's when you're kind of packaging things together because of the services that this consultant has already performed on the corridor and the traffic knowledge and everything else they've generated.
I hear what you're saying, but where's the safeguard that Horner and Schifrin's not saying, well, we already got the county on the hook for $1.4 million. What's our incentive to be lowball on the other $1.5 million? You see what I'm saying? Okay. I mean, there's not something like, it's not like a concrete project where you're doing well. We did 3,000 yards of concrete at $200 a yard installed. We're going to do another 3,200 yards installed. This is, to me, very ill-defined. And I don't see any of the advantages of competition when you start out at $1.3 million and you end up with $2.9 million with the same outfit, because it looks to me like there's no advantage for Mr. Schifrin or Horner Schifrin to really sharpen the pencil because of the fact that their foot's already in the door and they know they're going to get the deal. You follow what I'm saying?
Well, and I do. And when we negotiated with them, they were made very aware that they did not sharpen their pencil, that we would go out for an RFQ.
Okay.
So that's the hammer or whatever they had to keep their pencil sharp, was that they knew that was an option open to us to go back out for an RFQ. We knew what their price was, because they'd already provided it. And if we thought we could beat the price, we'd go off an RFQ, negotiate with a different firm. So they were under that incentive to provide the best value based upon that knowledge that we have that flexibility.
Would it be a hardship to your department, okay, if we postponed this until we had a chance to look at the plan and have a work session about the 70 corridor? Or does that mess you up?
Well, I think if the council would like to learn more about the I-70 corridor and this, and they need to be educated about them, not comfortable proceeding with this, that's what we should do. Whether that delays the process by a couple weeks, the key is that these are we've been working a long time and a lot of discussion. That's one thing that's exciting about these I-70 projects is that we keep engaging more people and educating and working through what the details of the business. So if we need to take that step with the county council, I think that's fine.
Yes. County Executive?
Just let's back up here. First of all these one-way out-of-road projects have been initiated by the cities. Now, St. Charles would be a slight example because I think the idea came from us, but we didn't do anything until they looked at it and said, yes, we want to go forward. The whole St. Peter's thing, the reason we haven't had a work session on this is because if the city of St. Peter's doesn't want to go forward with it, there's no point in bothering you all. And I had some people calling me about it, last week, and I basically said, if St. Peter's doesn't want to go forward with this, we can't go forward without them. So if they turn it down, there's no point in us even discussing it. If they go for it, then people are going to have to come and sell you, just like they sold the Board of Aldermen in St. Peter's. But if St. Peter's doesn't want to do this, we can't do it without them. So we can have a work session if you want, but it may turn out to be a totally moot point if the city of St. Peter's doesn't decide to go forward with this. Same way with St. Charles. We basically went to the city, and Mr. Klinghammer was involved in those discussions. And if you all want to be more involved in those discussions, fine. We could have 3 of you there, and you can call each other and invite them to come along. But we talked to Mr. Klinghammer because it's in his district. We talked to Mr. Brazel without calling everybody else about Augusta Bottom Road. Mr. Cronin, I think we talked to you a lot about Highway P when we were working on that projects. We're not trying to exclude anybody else. So if we call one of you and because it's in your district, you can bring 2 other people. Can't bring 3. But we're not trying to hide the ball here or anything. And again, as far as the RFQ, I remember I was in Jeff City when they passed this, and it basically applies to engineers, lawyers. Is there anybody else? Consultants? Architects. And think about it a minute. If let's say we didn't have our worthy counsel here and downstairs, if we had to go out and hire somebody to represent us, you could find some young kid willing to charge you about 1/3 what a normal lawyer would. So it can't just be the lowest. It has to be the lowest and best. And again, your concern is well placed. But I think the question we need to be asking Mr. Greifsue is, how many jobs have these people done in the past? Have they done a good job? Are they significantly higher in their billing than other people? So the questions are right, but the process is just different than a competitive bid. And I think it should be, because again, we can find an engineer who's probably would be willing to do this for less money, but does that engineer know what he or she's doing? So you're asking the right questions, but the process is a little bit different than a simple competitive bid, lowest and best.
I want Mr. Klinghammer to respond here.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that. Staff did ask me to be part of the process, and I certainly appreciate their willingness to allow me to sit in on it as well. I did go and talk to some of most of the council members individually. They're good with it. And Joe, I'll apologize to you guys. Had I known that this $1 million one was coming, I would have called. I've been on vacation for the last couple of weeks and wasn't here. I know where you're coming from. $1 million is $1 million, and it's an awful large change order. I absolutely agree, though, with John on this, because the process, it's already integrated with the rest of the 70 corridors improvements that are going on. It only makes sense to use the same company. I absolutely believe that our staff will work with them to make sure that Horner and Schifrin's rates are the same. And it is different than pouring concrete, but there's a lot of things about it that are very much the same. You get estimates on how many hours it's going to take, and you look at their hourly rates. Horner and Schifrin their rate is going to be comparable to what everybody else is, but they're going to be able to do it in less amount of time because they already have the baseline to work from. Anybody else coming in isn't going to have that and isn't going to have the experience of sitting at these multiple public meetings that have already occurred to get the public tie-in. So I absolutely believe that Horner and Schifrin is the appropriate company to use in this. It is unfortunate that the conceptual plan didn't make it to the packet. That would, I think, mitigate a lot of what we're talking about. The issue of one-way out of roads in this particular section doesn't really come into play except for, help me out, about less than 1,000 feet. So that particular issue is really more out west. It's not going to be in this particular area. The one-way outer roads will affect 3 different businesses if it in fact goes forward the way that it is in the conceptual plan, which I have no doubt will change once Horner and Schifrin starts putting their time and energy into it. The conceptual plan will change. That's a given going into it. I absolutely believe this is the right thing. The excitement out there amongst the other elected officials is extremely high. I travel this every day, a couple times a day, and especially on the weekends. Fifth Street is still not working. Yes, the city did improve it, but the amount of traffic that they're trying to squeeze through there is still too great, even adding the second exit lane coming off of westbound 70 onto northbound Fifth Street. It jams up. There are so many people trying to get into Bass Pro and to Ameristar simultaneously, along with the people, the rest of us that are just trying to go home and go on down north on Fifth Street. We just have too much going on for one particular location. The idea that we would have a separate exit and utilize another overpass, the most underused overpass in all of St. Charles County, that being Fairgrounds, to me is really quite exciting. It moves a whole block of traffic off of Fifth Street, gets them away from that interchange, and gives them an alternate route. The techniques and where things are going to lay out to make that happen, that's what this will do. And before we can go and show it to everybody and say, yeah, this is the plan, but we have to have a plan that is buildable and economically feasible and will make it through all the MoDOT requirements and all that other stuff. That's what this will do. I absolutely believe it's the right thing, and in my opinion, we should go forward and get it done. We do need to sit down and talk about what the conceptual idea of this was. It's unfortunate that it didn't make it to the packet for tonight's discussion.
Okay, one last thing, Mr. Cronin.
In comment back to Mr. Ellman and to Mr. Klinghammer, when a similar project or RFQ was presented for O'Fallon, okay? Your answer, for instance, on Horner Schifrin on RFQ, I understand that now. You had the option of walking away, so that's probably the hammer that I was looking for, okay? So I don't have any question there. But when this same type of thing, there was $500,000 to study the service road on the opposite side of the south side of 70 in O'Fallon, and across from my district. So I called O'Fallon, and I thought, I know several aldermen there, I know the transportation engineer, and I said, I thought you guys were adamantly against these, outer one-way outer roads, but now I hear that, you're open to it. And the discussion I got is that said the county is really pushing them hard. We're open to looking at what they've got in mind. So with that discussion, I voted for spending $500,000 to look at that new service road on the south side of 70 in O'Fallon. I think this is a little different and distinct in the thing. We're kind of putting the horse before the cart, okay? If we were going to have a work session, we're going to discuss I-70 outer roads, and we're going to have a open civic discussion about do we want and do the businesses want one-way service roads. Wouldn't it be prudent to have that discussion before we spend $1 million for engineering? To me, that was a discussion that you would have before you figured out how it was going to be built and all the stuff, instead of spending $1 million and deciding, That's not going to work, because if I'm reading this right, this is I-70 Outer Roads project. It's part of that project, okay? And I think that discussion needs to happen at this council level sooner or later, because especially before you spend the engineering. If you're talking about a small amount for conceptual drawings, that's fine. But if you're going to do the full engineering and $1 million worth ought to buy you full engineering, I would hope. I think you probably wanted to have that discussion prior to spending that $1 million. That's my opinion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, just in response to that, I don't know what alderman you spoke to, but the mayor and their staff came and met with us, wanting to proceed on this. I mean, am I correct, John? I mean, nobody, I mean, they called us to want to come in here, and they'd heard what was going on in St. Peter's, and they were interested, and my understanding was they had an internal debate about that before they did show up. But, the mayor said, yes, we'd like to be part of the study. We'd like to try to get the money and get it done. And if whoever the council person is needs to talk to the mayor.
Well, furthermore, Steve, it should be clearly stated here. The cities are the lead on these projects. Clearly, they are the lead. We are a funding partner, the same way if we went to cost share committee at MoDOT or something like that. Because these projects, in our estimation, are projects of county-wide significance, we have agreed, the county has agreed to fund these projects up front for the design and alternative analysis, but the cities are the lead. The cities decide ultimately what they want, and if, as Steve said, if they don't want it, it won't go forward.
And if they do want it, then they'll have to also convince you that it's a good project. But, until they do, we can talk about it if you want, but it may all become moot if the cities don't actually agree to push it forward.
My only last question.
And again, as far as, the engineering and the discussion, I guess, John, I don't understand, why didn't a map get included in the packet?
Yeah, I'm not sure why the exhibit was, especially if it was referenced there, why it was not in the packet, so I'm not clear on that.
Well, could it have been in the hard copy but didn't get transmitted electronically or something?
I mean, that's possible. Without looking at it, I really don't know how to
it doesn't do any good to send somebody a bunch of paper and they don't know what, they don't know what they're looking at. So don't send it out if we don't have a map in it, and see if you can find out what happened on that.
I will, and because I agree, especially on the Fifth Street Fairgrounds, it is hard to visualize, and it's a unique design. I think Councilman Klinghammer has seen it, and so it really does take looking at it, and as he correctly indicated, there probably will be iterations of that and tweaks that would need to be made as you go through the process. And I will want to reiterate that the change order before the council tonight is not for St. Peter's, it's not for O'Fallon, it's for the St. Charles project. And so it's for the modeling, the concept analysis, the public engagement, and as it gets past that point, the engineering. It is $1 million, and Councilman Cronin mentioned why we would spend design if we don't get to that point. And that's how this contract is structured with Horner and Schifrin. It is set on task, and so as they complete a task, we'll release them to proceed to the next task. And so if we get to the public engagement and St. Charles says we just don't want this project, then the final task of the project would not be done, and so we would not be billed and we wouldn't pay for it. But it's seeking authorization to take the project from the concept through what's called plan spec and engineering estimate approval, PS&E approval. And like I said, we'd only expend the tasks, of course, to the point that the public and the city would support their next step. And that's the same concept that we've approached the city, or we've been working with the city of St. Peter's and O'Fallon on also.
Okay. All right, now, just a point of procedure, we have 2 items that have been removed for consent agenda, correct? Yes. Do we vote on one and then the other? Okay. All right, I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of change order number 3. It makes a lot of sense to me if we can get another exit off of Highway 70 to get to Bass Pro. That would be wonderful.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, I believe that passes by 4-2, if I'm correct. Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Maybe, this whole outer road thing, I spoke to one of the auto dealers in St. Peter's the other day, and we have been working with this person forever, and he's tried to, to come around, and we thought he had for a while. But he just asked me, well, what is it that you in St. Peter's want? And I said, what we want is for the I-70 corridor not to end up someday like the St. Charles Rock Road corridor, or the North Lindbergh corridor, or the North I-270 corridor. Drive down there sometime and count the number of auto dealerships that are closed and boarded up. Okay? Right now, St. Peter's everything's fine. Auto dealers are doing well. But at what point does it become a problem? In the city of St. Charles, we've lost, in the corridor there, we lost Ken Bender a long time ago, then we lost Trinary, then we lost Dorn, Chrysler, Plymouth on the other side. So the corridor, they've already decided within St. Charles is not a good place to have an auto dealership. St. Peter's is probably right now is a good place. What I just want to make sure is whatever it is that makes people not want to be in the I-70 corridor in the St. Charles part doesn't become true of St. Peter's someday. And after that, O'Fallon. And after that, Wentzville. So we're just trying to be proactive. And the person I talked to, he understood that. But, he's got a business. He's afraid of any kind of change as long as things are going well right now. If, we just have to look at not only what's good for those businesses, but what's good for the businesses that aren't there yet that could possibly come in the future. And also, what's just good for the traveling public. In this case of St. Peter's, what nobody has heard, I don't believe, is that we're talking about 7 more places where people can get on and off I-70. 7 more opportunities to get on and off, and 6 less stoplights. Now, if you drive in that area, that should be quite attractive. Now, we have to balance that against any economic problems that might be created and reach a decision. And you may have to, do that weighing if St. Peter's, decides to go ahead and go forward with this.
Terry, real quick, I'll make a point. For the record, the reason I voted no isn't whether or not it's good or bad. To me, is irrelevant. It's because we have a county councilman who's requesting further meeting to discuss it, and the board denied that, which I think is wrong. And also, prior to the vote, and the attachment, according to the public documents, the attachment was enclosed, which it wasn't. So those are my 2 reasons. I'm opposed to the road. I'm just for the record.
Okay. And I'm the same way. Okay. When you mentioned the 7 exits on St. Peter's, I represent a pretty good portion of St. Peter's.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never seen any plan for that area at all. As an elected official in this county, not a one with those 7 interchanges. All I'm getting is letters from from a very national large car dealership that spent a lot of money in St. Peter's from their attorneys saying that they're very concerned. And when I get those letters as a councilman and I have no background information and no maps,
right,
I'm concerned, and that's why I asked the chairman for a work session.
We'll have,
which I think
I'm sure we'll have one if we get to the next step. I will do this. I mean, if you've already passed this, I won't sign the contract until you've had a chance to look at the project, talk to John, get any kind of questions you have answered. And I'm authorized to sign it, but I don't need to sign it, and I won't sign it till you're happy with it. How's that?
I appreciate that.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Brazel, we have a second.
The next question, I just had a quick question.
Okay.
It says utility easement to Ameren for WZG. What is WZG? What tower site is that? What does that represent?
Wentzville.
Wentzville. Okay. Just curious, what is that ZG? What is Wentzville?
It's just the name of the tower site. They each have a name, and
okay.
WZG was intended to be representative of the Wentzville Tower.
If and when we have any work sessions, is there any possibility we can have a work session on the extra costs that we've accumulated on the extra work orders on the 911 communications, just so we can be updated on it? We don't need to talk about the sites. I don't care so much about that anymore. I just care about the money that's being spent and how that's going about and so forth. I did have a complaint about some of the aldermen are concerned that they're, I guess we can talk about this in this bill coming up, but they're having to pay for the 911, and they thought that the 911 tax absorbed that, which I wasn't familiar with one way or the other. So,
Are you asking for nothing on 911 or radio?
well, I guess we can talk about it when it comes out on this bill, but we need an update on how much the cities, I don't know if we have a formula on what the cities are paying or what, because I sent you an email.
Yeah, and what I responded back to was the radio project. If you were asking about 911, that's a completely different project, a different system, and I did not provide you any response on that. If you're looking for any information on 911, I need to have a separate conversation.
I guess we'll have to talk about that, because I didn't know that that was a separate, I don't understand how it's all going together, to be honest with you. And I think that a lot of the municipalities don't either, at least some of the aldermen, and so.
All right, I need a motion to accept the emergency communications.
Motion to approve.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, next on the agenda is resolution number 13-13.
Resolution 13-13, sponsored by John White. A resolution reappointing Dan Hackman to the Board of Trustees of the Greens Bottom Levy District. Whereas pursuant to the St. Charles County Charter, Article 10, Section 10.608, and Section 245.335, Revised Statutes of Missouri, 2000 as amended, the County Council passed Resolution 10-14 appointing 3 owners or representatives of owners of land within the Greens Bottom Levy District to its Board of Directors for the staggered terms stated in that resolution. And whereas the 3 directors appointed by Resolution 10-14 were Rick Higgins as representative of owner Duckett Creek Sanitary District, Larry Osman and Dan Hackman as representative of owner Hackman Brothers Incorporated, and whereas by Resolution 11-14 passed on September 26, 2011, and Resolution 12-14 passed on October 29, 2012, the County Council reappointed Rick Higgins and Larry Osman to a new 3-year term upon expiration of their first terms, and whereas the County Council now seeks to reappoint Dan Hackman to a new 3-year term because his original 3-year term is expiring and because he has consented to that reappointment. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the St. Charles County Council reappoints Dan Hackman as representative of owner Hackman Brothers Incorporated to the Board of Trustees for the Greens Bottom Levy District for a 3-year term beginning October 25, 2013.
Okay, any questions or comments on Resolution 13-13? Okay, seeing none, read the title and vote.
Resolution reappointing Dan Hackman to the Board of Trustees of the Greens Bottom Levy District. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 13-13 passes. Next up is Resolution number 13-14.
Resolution 13-14, sponsored by Mike Elam. A resolution supporting Lung Cancer Awareness Month in November 2013 and urging businesses and restaurants in St. Charles County to go smoke-free by choice during the month of November 2013. Whereas November is Lung Cancer Awareness Month, and whereas during Lung Cancer Awareness Month, communities, health organizations, businesses, and government throughout the nation join in raising awareness of lung cancer and of measures that can be taken to reduce the risk of lung cancer, and whereas those risks include smoking and secondhand smoke, and whereas according to the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, nearly 10,000 Missourians die each year from tobacco-related illnesses, and more than 1,100 additional deaths are caused by exposure to secondhand smoke every year. And whereas according to the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, smoking attributable disease is the 3rd leading cause of death in St. Charles County, and approximately $2 billion is spent every year in Missouri to treat smoking-related illnesses. And whereas in 2013, for the 4th consecutive year, St. Charles County has ranked first among Missouri counties in health outcomes and health factors categories according to county health rankings compiled by the Robert Woods Johnson Foundation and the University of Wisconsin's Population Health Institute. And whereas the County Council commends the county's residents, businesses, and organizations for their contributions to public and personal health in St. Charles County reflected in the annual county health rankings. And whereas the County Council seeks to advance the county's interest and accomplishments in public and personal health by declaring the council's support for Lung Cancer Awareness Month in November 2013, and by urging businesses and restaurants in St. Charles County to go smoke-free by choice during the month of November 2013. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the St. Charles County Council declares its support for Lung Cancer Awareness Month in November 2013 and urges businesses and restaurants in St. Charles County to go smoke-free by choice during the month of November 2013.
Okay, questions and comments about resolution number 1314?
I'll make a comment. Harold, first of all, I want to thank you for all the time and effort that you put into this. And Carol, I'm really sorry that that was so long and you had to read all of that. Councilman Cronin, when he first brought up talking about the smoking issue, he had given us a lot of information about smoking, secondhand smoke, and the dangers and things like that. And I think you and I are on the same page in a lot of the non-smoking stuff. We just disagree on how to go about it. So one of the things that was kind of important to me was letting people know that we do care about the health of St. Charles County residents. That is very important. And one of the things that I think needed to be commended is the fact that Missouri counties, St. Charles continues to rank for the 4th year in a row as the healthiest county in the state of Missouri. And I think that's something that county residents should be applauded for, because no one told them to do it. It's funny when talking to Steve, when they always interview him and say, how did you get the county to be so healthy? And he said, I didn't do anything. The county residents did it by making smart choices. So I think they need to be applauded for the fact that the county residents continue to make smart choices. And because I think it's important, my grandfather died from lung cancer. So I just think it's important to take these opportunities to say, look, if you can do something to help improve your health, take those steps. But I wanted to make sure that it was put in there by choice, and that we're not making anybody do anything during the month of November. It's just an opportunity to reach out to people and say, here's a great opportunity to look at a way to be a little more healthy. And I've talked with the folks at BJC St. Peter's and Progress West, and they have smoking cessation classes that are going on every month, and they're free. So if you want to stop smoking, you can stop smoking and go there, and there's resources that are available to you. It's one of the things that Colleen was talking about and putting up resources on our website. We need to let people know that resources are available to them, where if they want to get help, they can get help. So that's why I asked for this to be put together, and I appreciate the council's support on this.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Cronin.
I guess, I'm sorry. Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
My question is, I know we've got it on our website, we've got a list of smoke-free restaurants. Do we have a list of restaurants that still allow smoking? And if we do, can we make sure that we, mail a copy of this resolution? Does anybody know the answer to that?
I don't know the answer to that. Sorry.
If we do, Mr. Elam, I think we need to spend a little money on postage and just mail some out.
That'd be good.
Mr. Cronin.
I was kind of flattered in a way that Mr. Elam borrowed a couple of paragraphs from bills that I've written in the past, and that by doing so he acknowledged that there's 1,100 deaths in this state from exposure to secondhand smoke, and translated into a county with 6% of the population. That means 66 of our residents approximately are dying every year from secondhand smoke. While I support Mr. Elam's bill, and I'll vote for it, and I do appreciate his efforts, I think this bill is kind of like cotton candy. It looks good, it tastes good, but it don't do a hell of a lot for your health, okay? What we really need is a comprehensive smoke bill, whether we pass it as an ordinance or we put it to the voters. Many in this room do not want to touch this issue because they're worried about the election next year. I don't look that way. And I think I don't look that way for the reason that pastor tonight hit it right on the nose. He said, God, forgive us for the things we do and the things we fail to do. And by not addressing this issue in a more comprehensive, thorough manner and letting another year go by, It's tick, 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 and 66 more people in this county pass away from effective secondhand smoke. So while I support this, I would look to this council to continue to work on this issue, to present something to the voters as soon as possible, or pass a reasonable health ordinance that maybe allows businesses some choice while protecting the youth of this county. I'll continue to work on the table bill. I'm going to try to refine it to try to make it as least intrusive as possible to the business rights of businesses in this county while protecting the kids in this county. And that's pretty much all I have to say on this issue. Lung cancer is a horrible thing to go through. I sat for 4 years next to a friend who was an alderman in St. Paul and watched him pass away from it. I think we owe our residents better than that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, please read the resolution and call the roll.
A resolution supporting Lung Cancer Awareness Month in November 2013 and urging businesses and restaurants in St. Charles County to go smoke-free by choice during the month of November 2013. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Resolution number 1314 passes. Now we move on to the one bill for final passage, which is Bill number 4008.
Bill number 4008, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a cooperative agreement for mutual road maintenance with Warren County, Missouri for the following roads in St. Charles and Warren counties: Augusta Bottom Road, Borgman Road, Jorling Lane, and Schultz Road.
County
Chairman,
executive.
it's obviously up to the council, but my suggestion would be that we go ahead and table this while we continue to discuss. I don't think the final bill is going to look exactly like this, but it's going to be very similar to this. And, you can pass this one, but if we can't get them to sign it, it's kind of a waste of time. So that's up to you, but that'd be my suggestion.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to table Bill number 4008 and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, Bill number 4008 has been tabled. Next up is bills for introduction, starting with Bill number 4009.
Bill number 4009, request by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from AFF, Agricultural District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District, to RRFF, Single Family Residential District, as per application 19965.
Questions or comments on Bill 4009? Okay, seeing none, we move on to Bill 4010 for introduction.
Bill number 4010, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Joe Cronin, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application 19982.
Questions or comments on Bill 4010? Seeing none, we move on to Bill number 4011 for introduction.
Bill number 4011, requested by Craig Tykowski, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance authorizing execution of a contract for water facility relocation and license to utilize easements between Missouri American Water Company and St. Charles County.
Questions or comments on Bill 4011? Okay, seeing none, we move on to Bill number 4012.
Bill number 4012, requested by John Greifsue, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance approving a second amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of St. Charles for the extension of West Clay.
Questions or comments on Bill number 4012? Okay, seeing none, Bill number 4013 for introduction.
Bill number 4013, requested by Steve Elman, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement between St. Charles County, and fire protection districts and municipalities operating a fire department and ambulance district users within St. Charles County for operating joint central fire and emergency dispatching service.
Questions, comments on Bill number 4013?
I got a question. Steve, I got a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. President.
It says execute an agreement. Where is the agreement? Is it attached or?
No, it's not yet attached. We're still working with the fire districts on reaching the terms. We've got two agreements that we're working on right now with all of the jurisdictions. One being this renewed agreement for dispatching. This agreement has been in place essentially right now since 1998. but it needs to be updated. And then the second item is the intergovernmental agreement specific to the operation and maintenance of the radio system. We have some joint interest with the fire districts to enter into both of those, the renewed dispatching agreement and the radio agreement at the same time. So we're working feverishly to finalize the terms on this dispatch agreement, and I hope to have something to Donna for distribution to you all by the end of the week.
Okay, so before we pass this ordinance, we'll have all the agreements in place, attachment. Also, what I was talking about before is, I guess I don't understand, and I don't know if the council understands, but is the radio dispatch, is that separate than 911?
You've got two separate systems. The first system is your 911 system, which is that piece of equipment that allows you as a resident to be able to pick up the phone, call 911, and speak with someone on the other end. Once that dispatcher has, in most instances here in our county, once that dispatcher has taken that 911 call, they're then switching over to another system, or another dispatcher will be switching over to another system, which is the radio piece, to be able to speak to deputies in the field, fire departments in the field, or the ambulance district to indicate where they should otherwise respond to. Those are two, these days, very separate and very large computer systems, but they're separately operated and separately funded. The 911 system, you'll recall the council had convened an ad hoc committee a couple of years ago to study funding of the 911 system. And again, that is separate from the radio piece being funded out of the increase in the capital improvement sales tax.
Okay, so the 911 is funded by the 911 tax, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the dispatch services, this here, will be paid for by each city.
No, these dispatching services, this agreement that is before you right now is for consolidated dispatching of all of the fire departments and the county ambulance district.
Okay, so what I want to understand, though,
Sure.
is like that email that was sent to me, and the alderman was asking, why are they, I guess you gave a list, I don't remember specifically, but certain cities like St. Charles, would they pay $98,000 or something for dispatching services? Lake St. Louis was like $25,000. So their dispatching offices will be closed, correct?
No. What those numbers that you had asked me about from a representative in one of the jurisdictions was what will be the fees that they'll be paying for use and maintenance of the radio system. So in order to carry around those radios in their vehicles or on their hips, how are we funding the maintenance of that system, the 12-tower system we've been talking a lot about in the last couple of years? All of the municipalities and the county will be paying an annual fee for maintenance of that system. Ordinarily, any jurisdiction who's utilizing that system would be paying a fee, including the fire districts who will be sitting on the same radio system. But historically, since at least 1998 or 1997, the maintenance of radio systems for the fire districts in this county has been paid for out of the dispatch and alarm tax, the 321 fund that is the discussion of the agreement that's before you. So in order for well, I did not have on that list for you the fire districts. They were on a separate page. Their fees for maintenance of the system will be paid for out of the dispatch and alarm tax, not by the individual fire districts.
Okay, so the cities are expected, I just want to understand this. The cities are paying, they still have their dispatch centers, correct? Is that correct?
Yes. You had asked some questions, I believe. The city of Lake St. Louis at their last board meeting had instructed their city administrator to come talk with us about potentially consolidating because they have some issues with their facility in being able to connect their building onto the radio system. So we will be having some conversations with them in the next couple of weeks. Right now, though, all of the other cities, St. Charles, St. Peters, Wentzville, and O'Fallon will all be maintaining separate dispatching centers, and it's yet to be determined for Lake St. Louis.
Okay. It's kind of hard to understand because so there's still going to be, the county still has the main hub, but all the other cities still have their dispatching and they all go to the main hub, basically?
The county will be operating the radio system and providing them the ability to communicate by radio. They maintain a separate dispatching facility for the purposes of separately talking to, in St. Peters. St. Peters dispatches their own police department. St. Charles County doesn't dispatch St. Peter's police officers on their behalf. So they maintain those facilities to do that. Currently, they also maintain those facilities to take 911 calls from callers within their own jurisdiction. As the ad hoc committee had reviewed a couple of years ago, the 911 fund that pays for those systems can't sustain itself going forward with decreased use of landlines in the county and just ever-increasing costs of those types of systems. So we will be having some conversations with the cities in the future that currently the 911 system, which is really a computer system housed out at dispatch and alarm, and a backup piece of that computer brain that sits in the city of St. Charles. In order for each of those individual jurisdictions to be able to take 911 calls from their own residents and within their own jurisdictions, we pay annual T1 line charges to each of those cities. The fund can't sustain purchasing of a new system and paying those phone charges every month. So we'll be having some conversations in the next couple of months about whether or not we all need to be maintaining separate 911 call taking capabilities, or if a jurisdiction wants to continue to do that in the future, having to pay for those systems themselves.
Okay, thank you.
I have a brief question. The fees that you're referring to, are they based on the amount of equipment those particular organizations have, X amount per radio? I believe I saw that somewhere in the
Yes.
packet.
The fees for the maintenance of the radio system are arrived at by simply taking what is our outstanding cost that we will incur for maintaining the system over 20 years and dividing that by the number of mobile and portable radios in the county.
So the price is fair to whether it's a
Right.
police department in one city or a fire department in the city? the
So
price
whether
based on
you
equipment.
have 7 radios or 15 radios in Forestel or a couple of hundred in O'Fallon or St. Peters, you're paying the same per radio cost. You just pay more because you are a bigger user of the system by having more radios.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions on Bill number 4013? Okay, seeing none, we move on to Bill number 4014.
Bill number 4014, request by Steve Ullman, sponsored by Terry Hollander, an ordinance amending ordinance 12-096 of St. Charles County, Missouri, and Chapter 115 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, relating to the basic pay plan for positions within the St. Charles County Department of Corrections.
Questions or comments on Bill 4014? Okay. Seeing none, we move on to Bill number 4015.
Bill number 4015, request by Steve Ellman, sponsored by Terry Hollander, an ordinance setting the 2014 rates for group medical insurance benefits with Coventry Healthcare of Missouri Incorporated, Always Care Benefits Incorporated, and dental insurance benefits with Advantica Dental Benefits Incorporated for county employees, elected officials, and retirees.
Okay, questions or comments on Bill number 4015?
I have a question.
Sure.
Was there what is the difference between the employee insurance cost and the retirees' insurance cost? Is it the same, or is there additional charge for the retirees?
It's 5%, it's 105% of the employee cost, or the employee and county cost, I should say,
So
the total cost.
So the retirees pay an additional 5%
Right.
over the county's cost?
The county plus the employee's portion of it, yes, sir.
Is there a reason why we do that?
A reason why we do that?
Is it just the cost? Is
It's
that
the
the
cost of
only
the
reason?
program, yes, sir. And that's only applicable up until the retiree reaches Medicare age.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on Bill 4015? Okay, seeing none, move on to Bill 4016.
Bill number 4016, request by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Terry Hollander, an ordinance relating to housing and community assistance, and 1, approving the consolidated plan fiscal year 2014 through 2016, and the 2014 annual action plan for St. Charles County, Missouri in its capacity as an urban county for fiscal year 2014 through 2016 under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and authorize the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with a consolidated and action plan. And 2, further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the 2014 annual action plan.
Okay. Questions on bill number 4016? Okay, seeing none, we move on to bill number 4017.
Bill number 4017, request by Julie Eckstein, sponsored by Terry Hollander, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute contract with Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for Women, Infants, and Children, WIC, Local Agency Nutrition Services Program.
Okay, questions or comments on bill 4017? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bills for introduction. As for miscellaneous topics, I just have a couple of announcements here. At the next council meeting, which is on October the 28th, there will be a 5:30 work session that will be set to allow presentation from developers on our master plan. And then also a reminder that beginning in November, there will be budget work sessions at 5:30 prior to our regular council meetings at 7. Okay. Any other announcements or miscellaneous? Yes.
Could I just have a word? Mr. Cronin and Mr. Brazel, real quickly. I know everybody wants to get home, but take just a half minute.
We can do that. Okay. All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.